that we can pull out. But
Oh, I got an old. Are we on?
Yep.
It's like, where am I looking? No, no, you're okay. Boom. It's so crazy. Like, I'm over. Hey, what am I looking at? I know it's the closet over there. What's over there? The corner. I can see the corner.
That's right. That's
So
right.
stupid.
Folks checking
Hi, Eleanor.
in, checking in. What's up, Phil Morris?
What's cracking? Hey, yes, happy Taco Tuesday, everybody. I hope LeBron is having his Taco Tuesday.
Taco Tuesday. You know, Phil, we're gonna have to get some tacos and eat them one day in the show.
That should be our first sponsor.
That should be.
Like Tito's Tacos, Taco Tuesday.
That's
I'm just
TTT.
saying. I'll go over there. I'll ask him.
I
I'll
love
ask
it.
him.
I love
Hey,
it.
Leslie Sides, what's
What's
happening?
up,
We have
Leslie
missed
Sides?
you too. We know you've been busy. This last summer has been busy for a lot of people. I'm just having a little libation here because it's Tuesday somewhere in the world. Well, it's Tuesday here. This one.
81 JB, Soul Singer. What's up, everybody? What's up, everybody?
What's cracking? So, Iona,
Yeah.
how you been? What's
Oh my
going?
gosh. So I should have actually. I got to start putting in my pictures and videos. I went to the Leimert Park Jazz Festival.
Oh,
Have you
right,
ever
that was
seen?
this weekend.
Have you ever seen Stanley Jordan?
Yeah.
Damn, that brother's in a whole nother stratosphere.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
amazing. Just amazing. Thanks, Soul Singer. He's amazing. So I went on Saturday and spent all day there, and then at David Mo Fanoy's house for Backyard Jazz.
Right,
And
right.
that
That
was
started up again.
ooh, that was. Let me tell you, we had jazz on Saturday. We had funky music on Sunday, and we were up dancing and carrying on. And there are a few little kids, and they're like, "What?"
Yeah. What's up with these people?
What?
These adult things, these
Right,
grown
right.
ass folios. Yeah. Yeah, that's how we do it. Well, thank you for inviting us. You did invite us, and so everybody knows, Mo and Dave Fenoy, who we have had on the show,
Mm-hmm.
have backyard jazz, and it's just phenomenal in their backyard. And I want to tell where it is because this is crazy cool. We don't want everybody to bum rush that place,
That's right.
but they have some of the best musicians in the world. They've had Munyango there many times,
Yeah.
and so many crazy good musicians, and they just got it like that. Those are two of the coolest people on the planet. Mo
They
and
really
Dave.
are. They really are.
Really
And they're
cool.
loving and wonderful, and they have a good message. Every time they're on the show, they both go on twice, and it's been really terrific. So, yeah, it was a busy weekend, and I thought I'd relax on Monday, but I bought my grandson, who's 4 years old, swimming lessons with Conrad. If you guys don't know Conrad,
He's
he's
swimming
in
with Conrad.
in the View Park area. He's been teaching children. Phil doesn't know Conrad. They've been teaching children how to swim for over 35 years. It's an oasis. It's just beautiful.
Well, especially at that age,
Saltwater pool.
you know, because we didn't really learn to swim until a little bit later, like 9, 10. Really, honestly. And I remember the day that I learned to swim at Peter Graves' house. I told you and Linda, I said, I'm gonna jump in the pool at the deep end. I'm gonna swim to the shallow end. You were like, no, you're not. I jumped in that pool, did my little doggy paddle. I figured it out. I
Come
got
on.
to the shallow end. That's
Come
all I did
on.
all day. I was exhausted.
Oh,
At
I
the end of the day.
bet. I
But
bet.
I was determined to learn how to swim. At Peter Graves' house, never forget it, in Palos Verdes.
We were,
That's
we were
right.
at Virginia Capers apartment building, and oh God, it's going to come. I want to say Lloyd Haynes, bless him. It wasn't Lloyd Haynes. Lloyd Bridges taught me how to
Right?
swim.
Yes, I remember going there.
He was in the pool that day, and I was,
Lloyd Bridges, Sea Hunt? Lloyd Bridges?
that's right.
Right.
See, and I was doing my thing,
on.
and Lloyd
You know
taught
what?
me how to
It's
swim.
so crazy. So good. So good.
Hey,
We bore
Coach,
these
Coach.
people to death with all these
Cheaty,
celebrity
cheaty.
stories. Yeah, enough.
How was
We got other stuff. I had a wonderful weekend. Spent the time with Jordan, my son, and my in-laws who had been here for a while. Now remember, they're 90 and 98. So anytime you get a chance to spend time with them, I take it because you never know,
Wow.
right? Nothing's promised.
Yeah.
And Carla's down there taking care of them, and so I was with her, and just being with Jordan and just fellowshipping, just
Yeah.
being with your son and hearing whatever he has to say and saying whatever you have to say and playing
Yeah.
golf in 110-degree weather was challenging. I'll just
Mm.
say challenging. But I
But
loved
that's
it. I loved
love.
him. Let's get to it, man. 'Cause I hear our
Okay,
guy. I want
so
to talk about him. I want
we've got the
to get to
special
our guest.
guest, and so Phil and I, we always introduce our guests and we talk them up. But instead, I created something. So let's show you who this man is.
Mm.
Come on now, huh? I know, right? He just gets you. He just gets you.
I was just grooving, and when the show's over, I'm gonna go take swimming lessons with Comrade.
Treat yourself. Just treat
You know, it's
yourself.
funny.
'Cause,
Oh,
What's funny
God.
is when I
Oh,
see that stuff, I keep saying, "Can somebody introduce me to him? Because he probably can give me a check or something." I don't know who that Negro is, but hi, y'all.
what going
Hey,
down, man? Can
Herb.
you be connected with more valuable entities in the world or what?
Now, see, your audience wouldn't know there's a lot of history, but I'll tell you one piece of history you two might not know.
Huh.
So back in my days in Kentucky, like I had the weird background from Canada to Kentucky, got off the plane and said, "Mother, why are they calling me nigger, mother?" It was in the 60s. And I used to sit there and go, I want to go to Hollywood because my sister lived out here. What family looks like my family in Hollywood? Who has a boy and two sisters and parents that have some notoriety? It was always you all. It was
Wow.
always the Morrises. I had jets with the Morris family saying, "They're like us." And then God and serendipity interceded, and here we are. There is history.
Oh, my
That is
God.
crazy. I as
Wow.
long as we've known each other and from where we do know each other, did not know that.
I used to pine for it, and you know, on Jet, everybody's life was perfect. I was like, oh my God, how could it be any better? I've got to get the Morrises are like the Trollicks. I'm Phil in the family. And here we are. Unbelievable.
You guys, I'm going
So
to tell
good.
you, Herb and I met, when was it, Herb? What was it? I got that echo again. I don't even know. It was in the late 70s, early?
Probably. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to tell you really quick because this story. Talk about future projection. I was in this class, and it was a ceramics class, and we had to make these dolls. So I made this little character out of newspaper, and I made a chain for it. And the chain necklace said, Herb.
Oh my God. I didn't
Did you ever know
that.
this? Do you remember this?
I don't.
Okay.
I don't.
Fast
Wow.
forward like a year later, Herb and I both working at CBS. I don't care nothing about Herb. I got things going on. I got a life. We go up to. Okay, I'm just going to
rooftop.
say it. We go
No,
up to
no.
the balcony, up to the rooftop of CVS, and we're hanging out. And before you know it, Herb and I fall in love. We're living
Absolutely.
together for 2 years, and
Absolutely.
that's how we know Herb. And I
Now,
just want to say this. Okay, Herb, you can say, let's say this.
well, I was going to say.
Hold on,
Wait,
hold
I'm
on,
not
Herb.
done.
Wait, Herb. Wait, hold on.
Oh,
We have relationships with people. There are
Yes.
some relationships they end, and they should. There are others who just become family and friends forever. And Herb Trawick, you are part of our family and friends
Forever.
forever.
Forever. Forever. And what you don't know and what the audience doesn't know, so we worked in the CBS complex, and the guys had their own little chat thing. It wasn't the internet. It was Negroes who were like, "Who's fine in the building?" Okay, and Iona was the finest thing in the building, and there were heavyweights in there. Magic Johnson would come in. It's the ultimate, and Jim Hill was there, and all these people. And I'm a boy from Kentucky, and I was going upstairs to where she worked because I didn't understand the concept of you could get free records. Like promotion people would put records out. So for a music guy, I was like, "Oh my God,
Bring it. Yeah.
I get to get free records and somebody that's fine. How does this work?" I'm not sure how this works, but this is why I came to LA. Like this is the whole reason I came out here.
You firing
So
on
I
all
was,
cylinders.
so I almost got fired because of you, because I would sneak up on my lunch break and then never want to leave. So I'd be like, "Let me sneak back 15 minutes." They would look at me and go, "Man, where you been upstairs, haven't you?" Well, because I had a whole bunch of records under my arm. I was like, yeah, I've been upstairs. So, anyways, then we fast forward, and then as I said to you before the show started, your sister and I sang at Phil's wedding.
Our
We
younger
were
sister Linda, you guys all know Linda.
so the family thing has been long and wonderful and
Mm.
amazing
Yeah,
and
and you lived with one of my best friends, Mike, for a couple years, and
Oh my
absolutely.
gosh,
yeah,
right.
no, it was up in the Hollywood Hills. It was cool, man.
Yep,
Those were the cool days. We got wild up in those
we did.
days.
We did.
And
We did.
yeah, it was great. I think it was exactly the wild that you need at that time without going overboard. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like we ran right up to the edge of life, and we realized, wait a minute, we got shit to do.
Yeah.
So I can't keep pushing this button.
Right.
I gotta find something else out. And you know, a lot of people that were in that circle did not stop that.
I,
You
and
know.
and did not make it through. What I feel blessed about is we got to do rites of passage when it was and be wild but relatively safe.
Yes.
Wild
Yes.
today is a different kind of wild.
It's
Mm.
life risking.
Yeah,
Risk your life. Yeah.
100%. So when Mike and I lived together, which was fascinating, we all have these seasons where our parents move on, and
Mm.
Mike was with me for when my parents moved on. I can remember
Really?
I can remember the way I started my entrepreneurial journey is I would wait till everybody at Solar left. I would then pack up my stereo in my bad fake Porsche because Phil had a real Porsche. I had a 944. Phil had a 911. And I remember he let me drive it, and I couldn't master the engine being in the back. So on the curve, you had to steer into a curve. Phil was teaching me this shit. So I said, "I'm gonna get me a 944. It ain't a 911, but so I would unload my stereo and then take it in, and I would have meetings later to try to start my business, and then get back at 6 o'clock in the morning and put it back in at Solar, so they didn't know that I missed it because I couldn't afford a stereo in both places. And I'll never forget, I'm holding my stereo, getting out of my Porsche, and Mike comes up and said, "I think somebody in your family passed." I was like, because he had gotten a call. They had called the house, and my father had died.
Mm.
And
Mm.
Mike is the one who like broke it to me. I was like,
Mm.
and thank God he was there because it made it okay to not be alone and show your
Right.
vulnerability and all that kind of stuff. So our history is so intertwined with stuff that we didn't even know
Mm.
went on with each other. That was real. I mean, I've gone through stuff with you guys and watch kids being born and people get
Life
older
stuff. Yeah,
here and
life stuff, man.
marriage. And it's
Yeah.
unreal. It's
It's
unreal.
been
And
great.
Iona,
That's
we
why.
have talked all the way through this for about 40 years. Easily. Easily. And now
Well,
I'm
let's talk.
managing artists that Iona's husband is in every video playing with her.
Well, let's talk about that journey. Let's talk about where it jumped off from Solar Records, so people know it's Solar Records. Dick
Tell
Griffey
us.
was the head of Solar Records, It was kind of an offshoot from Motown, but they really were involved in the new funk of the day, with a lot of bands, a lot of artists that you guys know. And I own and my sister Linda and Herb were around there at that time.
Yep. And here was the story of Solar, which I'll give you the cliff notes. In reality, when I started my career as a manager, I had no street cred whatsoever. So I would sneak into places like UCLA, see Quincy Jones, and then I created something called the last man standing concept, which is if you just waited till everybody talked to them and then you walked with them to their car, you could get all these kind of connections and so forth. And I didn't really have a car at the time. So I'm walking with Quincy, and Quincy never drove, right? And so I'm walking like my car's in a parking lot, and he's telling me, oh, we're looking for a band, this, that, and the other. And I was like, oh, I got a band. I didn't have a band. I didn't even have a bus ticket. So we get to the parking lot, and somebody stops Quincy, and I have to act like I'm going to my car. So I duck down between two cars, and Quincy didn't move for about an hour. I was down there so bad, my thighs said, I'm going to whoop your ass whenever you stand up and get back on the bus. So, but what that did is I had to then get in the hood and try to find a band. Now, Hood and Herb are not two things that back then certainly weren't, right? But what ended up happening is the whole notion of T-Talent came up, where Iona was working and I was working at the LA Times, and I went part-time and worked with her to meet bands that were in the community. So that started that. Then I ended up at Solar through my good friend Virgil. And here's the Solar story that people don't know, although we're going to tell this story. Solar, from Midnight Star and Shalimar and a whole bunch of other things for those who know that. What people don't know is that, in my view, it was the first Black entrepreneurial think tank that ever existed in Hollywood. A couple of data points. Dick Griffey had 5 female Black vice presidents in the 70s. Dick Griffey was the first person to gentrify Hollywood. Before anybody moved there, he went there with a real estate deal done by a female realtor who was Black. Dick Griffey got a building that Warner's gave to him because he was so cutting edge, and that building is currently housing a very famous songwriter named Diane Warren. That's her office building. It's still there on Cahuenga. We gentrified, we actually unionized Black promoters across the country. We took the Jackson out. We ran Jesse Jackson's presidential campaign. Al Heyman came out of Harvard, came there to learn his craft. So while this male nurse from the South, you thought it was about the Whisperers and Second Time Around and all that kind of stuff, they were forcing us to think through all kinds of outside the box stuff, let alone LA and Babyface started there, Jimmy and Terry started there, Snoop and Dre brought their record, The Chronic, there first. So what we were learning at Solar, people didn't know all that other stuff. And so the executives that came out of there, L.A. Reid, Virgil Roberts, myself, David Lombard, we were designed to go kill. Like, this wasn't if you didn't have it, I remember, sorry to ramble, I remember sitting with, I'm like a young executive, and I'm sitting beside a very famous record executive named Joe Smith. He was chairman of Elektra.
Yep.
And he said, are you with Solar? And I was like, yeah. He said, our staff is afraid of you. And I said, why? He said, because Dick hires all really brilliant people and you're all big. And so when you come in, we just get the shit done. Because we know we're going to get out argued. We're not service enough, and everybody gets frustrated. So it was an amazing, and the other part that was really interesting for Dick, who was notorious for, let's call it what it was. Dick had a very rough side too. Like, you'd be in meetings and say, yeah, what happened with Ricky? You won't be hearing from Ricky anymore. Oh, okay, I won't bring Ricky up. How about that? Let's leave Ricky alone. Rest in peace, Ricky. But there was, the thing that was fascinating is that Dick's partner was his 19-year-old daughter. So the lady who really ran a lot of us, who was one of my dearest friends ever, it was her 19-year-old. And so he had this thing where he empowered women to really do. We had a movie division back then. What the hell? With Doug McHenry and George Jackson.
Doug
Just,
McHenry,
just
yeah.
Doug McHenry. We had, this crazy management division. So, anyways, there was all this innovation going on back then. And SOAR, which stood for Sound of Los Angeles Records, was designed to be a Southern California thing. But the think tank part was, I'm going to hire smart people, refer me to smart people, and y'all better go do some smart shit.
Yep.
That's what that time period was.
Weren't they? You said Cahuenga. Weren't they on Melrose?
Yeah,
Between La Cienega, yeah, that Melrose, not place, but street, Melrose Place, and then La Cienega, and that was that like
that's
offshoot. That's where they were, right?
they were
Yeah,
they
yeah,
were literally above Atlas Leasing
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
below Irving Azoff. And I almost lost my family over this, and this is because of Phil. So Iona had this little Pinto that was gray. It's kind of sad. I had a Datsun B210, kind of sad. Phil had a Porsche, and they had a 944 Porsche downstairs at Atlas Leasing in red. And I said, let me forge my older sister's name on the lease. She won't mind. And she was mad
I
as
bet
a
she was.
God. And she was, me and her were dear. She said, you did what? I was like, Phil got a Porsche. I got to drive a Porsche. Shit.
Oh,
So, there's my sordid history as a forger.
Herb,
Yeah.
tell us, a lot of people don't know who Dick Griffey was. I mean, I know you've been talking about him, but you mentioned a nurse, but really tell us, who was Dick Griffey?
and
Well,
this is before Death
And
Row Records.
Solar.
Everybody,
Thank
is
you.
way before a lot of this stuff that you heard from
that's
the
right.
rappers. Dick Griffey was an entrepreneur, like Herb says, and I'll let him take it. But just so you know,
No, please, baby.
this is back in the day before
So,
any of
yeah.
this nouveau stuff happened.
That's right. And what was fascinating was, so he was a male nurse from Tennessee. And his vision was that, and I've learned all this through his daughter, some of it recently. His vision was the wrongs of the South could only be righted by economic justice. And he thought the most pure form of entrepreneurialism were barbershops because there was no middleman. You came in, you cut your deal, you paid the money to the person who cut your hair,
Done
transaction
deal.
complete. So when he came out here, his dream of talent, he started with Don Cornelius, and they created something called Soul Train Records. And Soul Train Records, so Shalimar came out, the dancers of Soul Train, and so on and so forth. And then they broke up, and he said, well, let me start this record label, Sound of Los Angeles Records, Solar Records. And he basically signed pop leaning R&B groups. Shalimar, Whispers, Lakeside. Lakeside was a funk band, so on and so forth. But what a lot of people didn't know is they would put us through school. So we would go into, like, I remember when they rented a club right on Sunset and Crescent Heights, and we went in there for 9 hours, and he brought in the head of MTV to teach us what to do there. He brought in the head of Warner Brothers Publishing, what to do there. He brought in people that were show doctors. How do you put
Is
on a
that the
show
coconut
properly?
teaser?
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. Exactly.
Ah!
Bingo. So we were going through this school of things that people who are our counterparts were going, y'all are doing what? But it would show up. It would show up in the tours. It would show up in our and many of us went on to manage. So I think what Dick saw was that there was leadership needed in the Black space. In fact, here's the correlation. There was a famous guy who recently passed, who called the Godfather. His name was Clarence Avon. And
Yeah.
oftentimes the determination was that Clarence was Martin Luther King and Dick Griffey was Malcolm X. And that was their approach to the record business. And Dick's position was, I don't need to ask somebody's permission to build my thing. And I don't have a lot of respect for people who do, because you had to go get permission from folks who didn't look like you. And Dick was like, no, I need to empower my people. We need access to Black capital. We need to. So it was a radical way of thinking in the 70s and 80s. And then you see it happen and you go, oh, you can make some stuff happen. So it was amazing. I mean, the number of people we met, and like again, this was a male nurse who just had a vision.
How
So
how
Yeah.
did he end up coming to Hollywood? Because you start off by telling us about barber shops, and then he
right.
shifted. So,
I think when he came out here, he knew that the land of entertainment was out here. And he just came out to find his way. So step one was with Don Cornelius. The fascinating thing is step two had a lot to do with sports. So at our office all the time would be Magic Johnson, Muhammad Ali, all these different people, because I think he saw athletes as entertainers as well and knew that their impact on people. And so it was cool to be a Solar. Like it was like, oh, who's I walked in my office once and one of the spinners was sitting at my desk using the phone. I was like, you're Felipe Wynn. I just listened to your shit in my car. Like, go ahead, use my phone, brother. No problem. And see, I was so corny. That's the other part that, if I'm telling the truth. Because, I'm Canadian. So I was like, hi, Dick, my name's Herb Charles. It's glad to meet you. I'm from Montreal, Canada. In a meeting once of about 35 people, our distributor, Electra, all this kind of stuff, I was pontificating and going on as I can do. And Dick said, Herb, 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 let me tell you something. Here's what I would like you to do in the future with your career. Only talk to white people. You're not cool enough. You're not cool enough to talk to black people. He said, you just talk to white people, we'll be good. I was like, oh, okay, Dick, that's what I'll do. So,
hey Herb,
well, yeah.
I just heard. Here, read this.
Hmm?
Read this message.
Carolyn.
She's watching.
So,
Kosol knows her. He's one of our regulars. He knows Carolyn, and he just sent this to us.
okay, absolutely. Carolyn is in Shalimar doing her thing, traveling the world, keeping it alive. Yeah, absolutely.
Love it, man. Well,
That's great.
we talk about that journey with Solar, but you also talk about the Canadian roots and all of that. And I need to know, we're going to dial it back a little bit more so
Uh-huh.
that we can find out how you went from Kentucky to Canada and the illustrious life that your father lived, because that certainly lands on Ione and I, given who our father was.
Well, one of the things that we had shared DNA on was what happens when you have a prominent parent.
Mm.
And it comes with its own set of rules and impact and other kinds of stuff. And then what a lot of people don't first of all, you can't pick your parents, so that's a blessing. Um, but it's also complicated. So you know what the complications can be from having a high profile. And so when I was born, my dad had retired, so I didn't know why my dad was cool to people. I was growing
Mm.
up and people go, Big Herb, Big Herb. And I was like, oh shit, the name Herb must be a motherfucker because people are. So,
So glad I'm named Herb. Shit.
yeah, thank God. In fact, the press came to the hospital when I was born as the next Alouette. So when my parents got divorced, I realized that my father had impact. So my father was the Jackie Robinson of the Canadian Football League. He broke the color barrier. He was the first black person. And because Jackie Robinson, the farm team for the Dodgers was in Montreal, they were friends because they were going through the color thing together.
Mm.
So the wives knew each other. Rachel knew my mom, my dad knew Jackie. And later, as all of that impacted me as to, oh, wow, this is heavy. My parents had divorced. There he is. That number 56 is retired. And he played so long ago, they didn't have face masks, as you can see. So that's a long time ago. He was, we are wide, fast, powerful people. And he was, so he ran a 10 flat 100 and weighed 340 and he would absolutely mow your ass
Oh yeah, he
down.
would.
They call him,
Beast.
so think about being disciplined by that. I messed with him one day when he was sick in the bedroom, and all I remember is I went from messing with him to being airborne. And so I remember the slap, there's the fro. The the fro was monstrous. So I'm going to school in Kentucky at that point in time, still watching the impact. A friend of mine recently called me and said, "You realize that two people in your family are in the Hall of Fames, are in different Hall of Fames. Your dad's in the Canadian Football Hall of Fame, and you're in these other Hall of Fames." And it just made me sit back and go, "Wow!" But having prominent parents, and I went through what happens with you guys too. What people don't realize is that then you have a legacy that you carry yourself about, what am I going to do with my thing? My dad did his
Mm.
thing. What am I going to do with my thing? And I got to do something with
I
my
gotta bring us
thing.
together on that.
Yeah, I mean, you all have gone through it, and you look up and you go, and you guys have done extraordinary work, and we've all, but I think somewhere in our DNA, there's something that says, you know what, I can't relax till I do something here that leaves a mark, and I welcome it, but I realize it now more than before. Before I was just working, just I'm going to break Brian McKnight, and I'm going to do this and the other things that I was able to do as a manager. Um, and then you find yourself in extraordinary circumstances. The time I spent partnered with Maurice White was one of the most
Tell
amazing.
us. Tell Herb,
Yeah.
you're flowing, and this is great. But I want to take you back to to bring
Okay.
us up to here. So you go
Okay.
from Canada, you go to Kentucky, parents divorce, you're there.
Right.
How did you get here? What was your journey
My
to where you
journey
are now?
was a coach of the high school basketball team named Steve Gilmore. So I played football, and I went to a high school, that was funded by a small oil company called Ashland Oil. So in 1973, when my high school football team went to the state championship, they chartered a plane for a high school football team. I was like, oh, wait, hold up. Let me see what's happening here. So I didn't want to play high school football, and I was tripped out because the high school basketball team could get out and go on 3-game road trips. And I was like, this is some pro shit. Like, for back then, that's pro shit. How am I going to do that? Well, I had game, but not game to be on the thing. So my best friend who started the team, my good friend who started the team, he said, you should be a manager. I was like, I'm not going to be a water boy. Anyways, I became a manager. In 1 year, they gave me a staff of 4 people. They gave me control of the budgets, and I got 7 scholarship offers to go to college for being a manager. And that's how I went
What?
to.
Wow.
They let me take over the whole program. So I put on jumpsuits. I had a staff. We did tricks. I had balls colored, change. And to me, that's when that coach said, "There's something you have that has to do with crowd pleasing that I'm going to nurture."
Hmm.
And I think that's where my whole show business thing, it wasn't show business back then, but it was like, how do I make a crowd react? How do I make something pleasing? How do I take an entertainment property and it wasn't that theoretical. It was just gut back then. So then I went to college in Kentucky, and the first thing I wanted to do, just to show you how glamorous my life is, I graduate from college. My father gets me a car, a Datsun B210. I'm stunned, never saw that coming. And then he said, "You figure out how to get to LA." So I got to LA by spending a summer hanging tobacco in the fields of Kentucky, which is as close a thing to Kunte Kinte as you could ever imagine. I'm talking about bandanas. The farmers pick you up in the town square. You ride on a
You're in the back of the
buckboard.
truck.
You're in the back of. It's not even a truck. It's a wagon. And I mean, the only thing we weren't doing was going "Hody ho, ho."
Hidey, hidey, hide.
And then you climb up in these barns that are empty, and there's rats and tobacco chiggers and all kinds of shit, but they paid in cash. I did a summer of that, got in my Datsun B210 and drove to LA to see my sister. And so I have all this kind of Huck Finn, Tom Sawyer. My shit is crazy. Like, it's just, and then I tried to come out here and be sophisticated. Yes, well, I got a tobacco chigger right here on my thing,
Yeah,
but
but you were Canadian, so that
I,
helped because that gives you
that, that that
refinement. I just came
that
from
gets you through
Toronto.
a
I'm
lot.
just telling you. This is
You
some
drop a
very
few French
kind,
words, bonjour.
genteel. Well, bonjour, enchanté, enchanté.
Exactly. Exactly.
It's
Exactly.
a pleasure
So
to meet you.
that's how I came to LA. My sister was here, who you guys know is the love of my life. Tony was just amazing.
Mm,
Yeah,
mm,
she
And she
was.
was somebody who always said, go for yours. You have something special, go. Don't regret your time. So she sort of encouraged me to be fearless, but practical. And she lived in the jungle at the time, even though the jungle wasn't what it was. It wasn't Training Day jungle; it was pre that.
Yeah.
And then they moved to Fox Hills, so they moving on up. So all of a sudden we're in Fox Hills,
gentrification.
killing it. Um, and then the other thing that really happened big in my life is, again, I'm a guy who carries weird facts around. So I put a girls group together at the building we were at, Iona. And the very first time that they performed, which was at a speakeasy in West Hollywood, I learned that I was allergic to sulfites. And so you and I went to a party where they had some deviled eggs out. I ate the deviled eggs and I went to the performance of the party. And my group performed, first time I ever tried. And afterwards, we're dancing at the club and stuff like that. And the sulfites hit. It was One Nation Under a Groove, and I couldn't breathe. So I
Mm.
bent over like it was a dance move, and I was just trying to get air. Like I was about to pass the fuck out on this dance floor. Went outside and ended up
Mm.
laying on the ground because I couldn't get air. And people would walk by. This is what your cousins would do. So I'm laying out there. They don't think I'm having a respiratory thing. They think drunk Negro. So
Mhm.
I hear footsteps and hear this, drunk ass motherfucker. And they would just walk by me and I was going, what? I can't breathe.
An anaphylactic shock, people.
Thank you.
Mm.
So, anyways, I got saved through that. But what ends up happening in that, the reason why that's relevant is I'm trying to get a job at CBS Records because I'm at CBS News Radio. I go over to do a job interview. The guy stands me up and he doesn't realize I'm Herb Charlie. He's actually in his office, but he's lying to me with his secretary saying, oh, Bobby's not coming in today. So I said to the secretary, tell Bobby he just walked by me to go to the restroom. And I'll never forget that. And like 2 years later, 2 years ago, I said, you were an asshole to me. He said, well, I was. So, but I'm getting on the elevator and it's a black receptionist and she says the name Azizi Johari. And I got right off the elevator and I went over to her and I said, did you say Azizi Johari? And she said, yeah, she's a friend of mine. So at the time, that was the first black Playboy bunny. And only I would have that fact in my head because I was just a lonely, horny boy. So I make this conversation with her and she says, you need to meet some friends of mine. And long story short, she introduced me to a guy named Virgil Roberts and they became
Oh, that's
part
how
of
you met
the group
Virgil.
for 45 years. And that group of achievers is six guys who have gone on to do really significant things. And we've been friends for probably 45 years. So it's been happenstance that you turn into opportunity and do something with. That's a lot of how, so that's where
Everything
Solar
works.
came from.
That's how everything works. And one of the
Thank you.
reasons why we have this show, The Vision is Possible, is to show people that there is no straight line.
Which
The
is,
truth.
and by the way, you guys are doing this show incredibly well. Love it.
Thanks, man.
Hopefully this helps. And so,
Thank you.
and look, my Morris passage was also a very big part of my life.
Hmm.
Really big. I mean, like for me, I'm dating Hollywood royalty, and I'm meeting people that I wouldn't meet. Phil was in TV hard. You were doing voiceovers
Hmm.
and different things, and I was meeting people that I wouldn't have necessarily met, and I was like, yeah, this shit is. I'll never forget the first time I went to your parents' house, and your dad did that long hallway hand in the jacket thing in
In
front
the
of the picture
red
of the
smoking
White House.
jacket.
Scared the shit out of me. I walked in like, because first of all, we're close, and your parents know we're close. You know what I mean by close. And now I'm going to meet Dad. I'm like, oh God, let me just straighten up. And he came around the corner in a smoking jacket, hand in the pocket, and strode down that hallway. And I was like, oh my God, this is Greg Morris from Mission Impossible. And then we sat down and played a game, the four of us, that had all these intimate questions. Well, if you slept together, what would you happen? I was like, no, no, I just met them. Don't put me in that position,
I can't
please.
answer truthfully.
Right, right, right.
I can
So,
answer, but not
exactly.
truthfully.
So, Lee and I were always really close. And so
Yeah.
the Morris chapter was a big passage for me about how Hollywood could be, and more importantly, how family could be. That was the other part. It was like family is imperfect and it has hurdles, but you hang and you stick together and you love one another and you get through it. It's huge for me. Definitely huge. I still have pictures of your parents. I have pictures of all of us for
Well,
sure. So
all those influences make such a big difference. I mean, you came at it from your own place of legacy and being shown the world in a way that a lot of young uh, African Canadians would not have seen. You know what I
that's
mean?
right.
Because of who your father was,
That's right.
and to honor that legacy and honor that journey, there is a part of us, I think, that innately goes, I gotta carry this torch, man.
Yeah.
I have a responsibility, whether I'm conscious or I'm not conscious of it,
Yeah.
because of the door that they have opened, that they have walked through, that took so
Yeah.
much courage and guile and intelligence and beauty to
Yeah.
succeed in. Because to succeed on the level that our parents did, our fathers did, especially in
Yeah.
worlds that were homogenous, not diverse
No
in any
question.
way, shape, or form, took a
No
little
question.
bit more than what we need to have now because they did it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
They
And
did
and
it, and so for us to continue to do what we do, I said it all the time when I was working in Atlanta. Remember when I'd go to
yep.
I go to the Ebenezer Baptist Church, and I'd say to
Mm-hmm.
myself, what would they think of us now? What
Mhm.
would the people who really went through it, who really got dogs set on them, who really had hoses set on them, who really had legislation
Mm.
set against them, how would they view us now? They would go, "You motherfuckers are soft.
Absolutely.
You're
I mean,
soft."
Tony used to be, so both my sisters went to school in Virginia during a hellacious time. And Tony, being the oldest one, she did the lunch counter thing. And I was in Canada not really understanding that. And I would get letters from her that were just the miscengagation of your ancestors. I was dating white girl, I was dating whoever was living. And she wasn't saying, she was saying, be aware. The world that you're going to go into is not what you think it is because you've been in a bubble. Like once that bubble is popped, it's different out here. And I think part of the other part that I used to notice with you guys that I think I also have is we don't necessarily think we're doing 10 things. We're just doing. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh shit, six of
Mm-hmm.
these worked.
Mm-hmm.
And I now have to deal with it. So I often get people who are a little bit sort of fucked up about my capacity. And I'm like, I don't even notice all these things, like all those things that you had in the opening. Like sometimes I look at those things and go, I want to meet this brother. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I can probably get a check from him somehow, some way. And for
What am I
me,
doing with
it's
my
just,
life? Yeah.
right. For me, it's stimulus. Like, oh, I can do this and I won't be bored with that. And then it shifts at some point in time to where people trust you and they want your opinion and you can pick up the phone and make things happen.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I think I feel the biggest sense of Black pride. Like, yeah, let me hook you up. Let me make a call because of X. And the people who start trusting you aren't necessarily the same color as you. They just think that you're smart. And as my friend Virgil says, I told him I owe him publishing, either lesser or greater, never equal. Pick which one you want to be. And
Mm-hmm.
I'll pick the greater all the time. Like what we see going on with the presidential election now. There's something there that's just bigger and greater and a movement. What
Mm-hmm.
we saw when Tiger went into golf, what we saw when, what Black talent has meant in the acting world now, and those entrepreneurs like Issa Rae and Ava DuVernay
Creators. They're
Mm-hmm.
creators. Full
and
stop.
creating big businesses.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Big businesses. My former I ran into him yesterday. That's why I'm telling this story. My former VP of my management company, I go and see Beyonce's film Renaissance 6 months ago. I'm looking at the movie. He's in the movie. I almost jumped up and said, "Wait, stop how's he in the movie?" So I go call him, and he said, "Well, they loaned me over here, and I'm the director of music and touring." I was like, "You used to work for me." He was like, "Yeah, well, me and Jay-Z, we now make all the decisions for B." I was like, "Damien, are you kidding me?" So yesterday I ran into him. I hadn't seen him for about a year, and he's telling me all the different things that are in the how many details she's on top of, how many decisions she makes. He said, "Look, Herb, I don't think he'll get in trouble for this." He said, "If I send her 10 songs, like let's say I send him at 9 o'clock, here's some demos for you to listen to. I'll wake up in the morning and she'll have notes. Give me the song, give me the lyrics, what's the intention of the lyrics, what's the production change we need to have, what's this, that, and the other. And I want you to meet me at 9 o'clock with a full report on those songs." She does that.
Mm-hmm.
Artists don't generally do that. And so the building of her business is her building the shit out of her business, and so that it's just an extension of how we have come as a people to now create capital and create access and create opportunity and don't have to ask for permission structure, and like, okay, let's get it on. Where are we
Hmm.
going?
Hmm. What
So
works?
it's
What works?
amazing.
So what? So
That's
what would you say, Herb? And I kind of hear it in what you just said. But in advising people as they go on with their dreams and they're told no, they're told this is crap. What's this? How do you keep going? How do you keep focused? What keeps you alive and thriving forward?
I think it's the variety of the things I have to do. Um, we have a podcast that's pretty big. It's in its 14th year.
Hmm.
It's been in
Pensado's
200
place.
Gonzalez Place. It's been in 200 countries. Um, I had no idea what I was doing when I got involved in it because the audio business is different than the music business. And all of a sudden it turned into this big thing. And we had live event series and we had an
Well, what's the
award
nature of
show.
it? What's the nature of Pensado's
So
place?
basically, we'll have people on who are behind the scenes that make the music. People never focused on those people.
Like who? Like what
Engineers,
positions?
producers, mastering engineers, and so on and so forth. And we showed how critical they were. So if Phil was Bruno Mars, and you wrote a record for him, produced a record on Bruno Mars, and I was the mix engineer. If I do a shitty mix, Phil will never become Bruno Mars because the
Mm.
music won't. So it was a very valuable place. What I didn't realize is that all these people had fans around the world because you're more likely to be a great mix engineer than you are to be Bruno Mars. So all of a sudden,
Mm.
we had all these people following us. And then we ended up with over 150 schools that use our show as curriculum, which is insane. And so when I came up with the idea of having a live event, they were like, well, I was like, we're going to have a concert for engineers. And they said, well, who's going to be the star on the stage? I said, the engineer. Well, how does that work? So I said,
Mm-hmm.
let's put up a screen. Here's the song that you mixed for Christina Aguilera. You put the session up on the thing. You have all the people come with their computers and they can mix with you. And you can show them all the tricks and shit. We had people line up from 33 countries paying $150 a ticket. So they were saying, "Who's this Negro?" Because he's throwing some different shit at the NAM convention, which is every year where all these people come to. We actually have to have security to walk around.
Mm.
Like the passion was so deep, and I would say to my partner, these people really care about what we're saying. We need to be mindful, not to make it morbid, but in our early years, we probably got 4 emails from people who used our show when they were thinking about committing suicide, who then didn't. You know, I'm sitting here with a loaded gun, but you and Dave made me laugh and encouraged me to go another day. So what I learned in my podcast journey is that people are listening. Don't focus so much on the people you get. Focus on the people that have not signed in yet. How do you get them? It's one thing about the converted people. It's another thing how you get to the next thing. And remember, I didn't do this. So I spent the first year like in a tennis match going, I don't know what these people are talking about, but I'm going to act like I know, because it's not, you know, I know management and artists. They're talking about stereo bus and rolling off 2K. I thought a bus was something you took to get to Sepulveda Boulevard. I don't know. I don't know. So I had to learn all that stuff over time, which, you know, I finally got better at it. So some of it is the stimulus, some of it is going into new circumstances and saying, okay, how do I throw me in the deep part? Let me see how I swim. And not everything has been a win. I've just had more wins than losses.
One of our regulars asked, Herb, you've accomplished a lot of the years. Over the years. Thank you. What would you tell your 10-year-old self?
I was getting ready to say nigga, please, but it's a great question. I remember my father talking me out of playing football around that age. Yeah. He said, I had to. He said, you're smarter than me and you don't have to. I'll never forget that conversation. And I think I would have told I knew that my dream was when I was a kid, what if I could create enough business that my business was Herb Trawick business? I didn't know what that meant at that time, and it's turned out to be that. And I think that was the installation of looking at my dad as a business owner back then when it wasn't cool, because when he retired, he built a business and he had a fleet of trucks, and back then they used to stick circulars in newspapers, and that's how you got your ads for. And so his company would get the ads from the companies and then go stick them in the newspapers. And he had all these French guys that worked for him. And I was like, wow, man, my dad is like the boss, you know? And so I learned bossism. I got it in my DNA through watching that. So we never had limitations.
Well, that's key. That's freaking key, man. It's because of the limitations that our society or we put on ourselves or are imposed from outside that keeps us stuck in a place, right? Doesn't keep us thriving, moving towards that place that you saw as a child. And that's what we need to do. I mean, that's what your podcast does. Hopefully that's what we're doing. That's what we do every day for ourselves, is to encourage ourselves to filter it so that it encourages us and pushes us forward.
100%.
As opposed to enervating us and shutting us down. And there's so much agreement you can get if you're on that, oh, woe is me tip, as opposed to, I'm going to figure this shit out.
Preach. So true. And we have to empower people. What you're watching live is me going to get my charger. So it doesn't. So.
All right, we can talk.
Go get your charger. We'll keep chatting.
Okay, we're good.
Because, you know, I want to jump in what Phil said and what you said. It is so true that your limitations are only what you put on yourself. Even if you think they made me, no. Right. It is hard to buck up against parents, grandparents, family, and friends, but you're the one who puts the limitations on yourself. You're the one. And if you can stop that and just move forward, and sometimes you don't know what's around the corner, but you know you got to get there. Not sure how I'm going to get there. Yep. You'll get around the corner. You'll get to where you want to go.
That's true faith right there.
That's right.
What you talking about, Iona?
Jumping in the void and making something happen.
To your point, Iona, the other thing that I learned is that we have to give a hand back. Like, it's one thing for people to look up and say, wow, Phil's got this great family, he's an athlete, he's an actor, he's a smart guy, like all this kind of stuff. And then you got to spend time with somebody and say, this was my journey, figure out your own journey. Because sometimes, like when we came up, we didn't have a whole lot of people to go touch and get that. We kind of used our parents for that. How did Greg Morris do that? There were like 5 people on TV, maybe 4. I said, how did he do it? How did my dad do that? Well, now you can go to people. When I think about the number of my friends who have Kamala on speed dial, like we can talk to her. Or I remember when my friend introduced us to this big-eared guy named Barack before he even ran for Senate. And so what our access is now is you can go be inspired. You can sit down at the thing and go, wow, you got me to that. And that's a big sea change from when we came up. So it feels responsible to me as part of the legacy you leave, is that you illuminate the path for folks. I think that's
there's no doubt. There's no doubt. And how authentic you run your race.
Yeah.
I mean,
Ooh,
part of
Phil.
it is your integrity. That's what I get more than what you reach back and tell me. It's how you comport yourself.
100%.
That's why our father was so successful, because he walked it and he talked it.
Every
We have
step of the way. He
far
sure
more
did.
people of our ilk who inhabit various strata of our society that we didn't have when your father was doing his thing. There were
That's
fewer.
right.
Now there's more. So we have
Yes.
more of a sample size, as it were, so that we
Yep.
can look at this sample size and go, hey, I see me in that. Where do I see
Absolutely.
myself? I see myself everywhere. There's nowhere I
100%.
don't see myself. Where before our parents had to see themselves there because
That's
there was no
right.
one there.
That's right.
And that
And,
takes
and
a
they,
whole different amount of strength, a whole different character. So what I'm saying is now is not just about, because we don't want to proselytize, right? People they don't respond to that. What they respond to is how you behave and
Mhm.
how you do what you say you're going to do. And when you are embodying that, you're immersed in that, it is impossible for them not to respect you. If you
Absolutely.
talk about it, but you're not about it, it's easy to poke holes in shit. When
Absolutely.
you're about it and you show that to the world, then you got them, man. Then you got
And
'em.
man,
Come on. So
it
true.
couldn't be put better. That's whatever that line is. It's not what you say; it's how you make people feel,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what people remember. And and so when you make people feel that way, it comes back at you in triplicate, because you've touched them in a place where they go, you know what, you moved my soul,
Mm-hmm.
and there we go. And so when you learn to recognize that, at least for me, I learned that whenever somebody wants to get something from me, I need to pay attention to them, and I need to try to give them what they want, because they're thirsty at the fountain. And if I can give them something good, they may go on and then continue the legacy. Our parents had nobody to talk to. We at least did. And so we got to give it to people so that they can. And it's a great honor. Like
Yeah, and how
I
do you
get
feel?
off.
How do you feel when you? It's like, how do you feel when you give that away, that truth away, where you're sharing something that somebody had never heard before, or that had never heard it in that way before, because you're a unique filter for them.
Mm.
That is, to me, that is gratifying. I've done all these conventions the last month, and that's the greatest feeling I can come away with,
Yeah.
is when somebody resonates with either my work or the words that we're sharing at the table, or what they've given me from them to share with me
Mm.
after I've shared my talent, my whatever it is that they feel I've shared with them. I walk away from
Spot
those
on.
days walking on cloud nine, man. That's
My
that's
There's
my
wonderful.
nothing like having someone say, wow, you changed my life, or you helped me through a situation you didn't even know, or I am doing what I am doing today because of something you said to me.
my experience yesterday with my guy who's now with Beyonce was exactly that. I hired him. He was out of Denver, and they were nouveau because they were a group that wore kilts. They were black kids who wore kilts back then. And watching him grow up and become into this thing now, with a family, with this heat, with this gravitas, with this ability. And he said to me, he said, all my roots I learned from you back in the day. And I was like, damn, like I'm leaving that flag planted, and just, I drove home with my chest out, like, okay, this is why we do this shit. And hopefully we're making some people feel that way because of the lessons that they gave us. And they go, God, look at what Iona's doing. Look at what Phil's doing. Look at what Herb's doing. And that's working to me.
That's what the Vision is Possible is all about, Herb. This just started from a one-night conversation, and now we're almost 3 years in. And it's always exciting to us to hear from our people, and then more will watch the videos and leave comments or the little shorts that we post. We're just so grateful to be authentic and to share our lives. Phil and I talk it all the time. And it's not just, as you know, you give, and it's a shocker at how you're getting back. What bounces back to you? You're just speaking truth to give love, to give wisdom, to share your life with someone because it's important to you or them in the moment. And then it always is like, wow, what I got from that discussion. And we get so much from Thursday nights. And that was one reason about having you on. You have achieved so much. And as we see from the video, all of the things so far you've done, and that's not everything. And what's important to us is not only sharing where we are, but how we got there. What were the things that were like, I'm in the valley of the shadow of death, and you can't go forward, but what is it spurs you on? Because so many people get no's. So many people get, this is terrible. No. So you mentioned to us how you move forward, but what are some of the things you do? Do you work out? Do you have a spiritual life? Do you have a therapist? Do you drink? Are you?
The therapist's name is Jesus. So I came out of a home that was super religious. My mother was so religious it caused a divorce. My dad would come home and go, you did what with the grocery money? Oh, you tithed it. Okay, cool. So all of a sudden church was like, go back to Canada, go back to Kentucky. But I've been a church kid all my life until I came to LA. And when I tell you church in Kentucky was very different because my mother would be like, hey, let's go to church where they use rattlesnakes. I'll be like, Mom, what? Are you? Hey, you be the only black kid in Bible school and you get beat up because you're in Bible school up in the mountains of Kentucky. So I did all that. When I came out here, church was so political because if you're in Hollywood, there's an expectation. Are you going to contribute to the building fund? So it kind of made me back off. When my relationship broke up 3 years ago, through happenstance, actually through a woman that I was boxing with, she was Tongan. And she said, you should go to church with me. You should go to church with me. And I was like, I'm not going to a Tongan church. They do not make grass skirts in a 2X. I'm not going to do that. And she said, go with me once. I was like, oh, okay. I'm getting in shape and all that kind of stuff. And she took me to a black church in Granada Hills called Hope House. And game changer right from the beginning. It was the most musical, I call it the Grammy church. So the music is insane. It's led by a female pastor, Dr. Dre, whose name is Dre. They call her Dr. Dre, Pastor Dre. And it's church that's not very churchy. It's kind of like, I don't care how you come, I don't care how you look, come here and just be lifted because we try to pour into you spiritually without being judgmental about how you should behave. And I was like, between the music and the other kind of stuff. But what was fascinating is as I went back, there's a part of my career that you just ran. It all took off at that moment. Like, I was like, okay, I got to go to church every Sunday because I can't break I can't break this I can't break this train. And it replaced something in my life that I had not dealt with for a minute. And I'm surprised at the power of it. And also it has brought me sort of closer to my mom's memory, because my mom was the church driver. And now I'm like, damn, mom, you were right. Damn, you were right. I should have listened back then. But she was so busy. My mom liked to embarrass me, and like, I sang in the choir. So, the choirs are right beside the preacher, right? So you're in the choir singing. My mom always had the same seat, and I was a rabble rouser in the choir until mom would get up in the middle of the sermon, walk over to the choir stand, do this, which means go into the preacher's office. And remember, churches echo. So I'd walk into the preacher's office and you'd hear pop, 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 pop. And then she'd make me go back out and sit down in the choir thing, and she'd walk back down. I was like, damn, she just beat the shit out of me in front of everybody, and it echoed all through church. So church had this whole extra, and in order to get around that, I taught everybody in the choir sign language so that we could talk without moving our mouths. So I was the weirdest. No wonder I'm here, because the shit I was doing. They're like, what Negro does that? And I taught them one-handed and two-handed. I still can do it. But somebody allowed all my idiosyncrasies to kind of be okay. And not very many people rifled.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Somebody was you first.
Yeah. Yeah, but my
Somebody
parents were supportive, and my sister
Okay.
was supportive, and the coach was supportive, and friends, and meeting you guys. And look, when I met the Morris family, we were pushing against the norm. What you were trying to do, Iona, what Phil was doing as an actor, and so on and so forth. It was like, oh, this is going to be some next level shit. And then you see it work, and you go, whoa, it's possible. It's possible. So I like living in the realm of possible, and if not, make it possible. Crazy. Crazy.
Wow.
Thank God for our parents, huh?
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
Yes.
And like you just said, or an hour ago, you said we don't pick our parents, which we
Yeah.
don't.
That's right.
But
That's
we were
right.
very fortunate to land where we landed, and to kind of process the information the way we processed it.
100%.
It has served us in good stead. So
100%.
happy to have you, man.
Oh man,
Good to have you.
when I tell you I love you, makes me emotional.
Hey, darling. So
We go back.
we go
Yeah,
back. We go
Yeah,
back, and we'll
sure.
keep going forward.
Mm-hmm.
Well put.
We got more. We got more to do.
Got
We've already
more.
we got
We
more
got more.
to do, baby. More to talk about too.
I want you guys to come on Pensato's place, and we will
Would
talk
love to.
about that. There-
Oh, that'd
There's
be
Would be an
wonderful.
honor.
there's some
That'd be wonderful.
correlations that we can do. We'll have a good time. Actually, I want you to come on The Parlor, my new show.
Your new show, I
Let's
was
go.
going to say. And when does that start?
Probably the end of October.
Okay.
We're gonna make it sexy.
Okay,
We'll
good.
shout it out.
Come on, The Parlor.
We'll shout it out.
That'd be fun.
Love you.
Wait,
So-
we love you
so-
too. Before you go, hold on.
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to, just a couple of things before we do our last little bit, but I want to
Okay.
just give Phil's info where you
Yes,
guys can follow Phil. I know it's hard at the Phil Morris everywhere. Wait a minute. Let me put a little something. I got so caught up. Okay, no, I'm not feeling that. I'm not feeling that one. I'm feeling this. I know I played a little bit of it earlier, but I'm feeling this. And this is me, where you can find
Yes.
me. I want lots of go. And this is Herbie Trawick, at Herb Trawick, at Pensato's place. Herb's friends, who are amazing people, they call him one of three things: Renaissance man, impresario, and Godfather. Mhm. And this is where you can find the show. I just set up, matter of fact, I got to put on here, I just created a professional page for The Vision is Possible. on Instagram, and I keep forgetting to add stuff to it, but I'm going to. And hey, anyone who is on Instagram, just know we will be coming back. We will be coming out. We're going to figure out how to get Ecamm on over to Instagram because we miss our peoples. So, Herb, before we leave, we ask everyone, and then we will follow suit. Oh, I just want to put this here. Thank you. And Chris Barrett says, this is the chat tonight was wonderful. He also mentioned how Nora Ephron said everything is copy. Exactly, it's our story, the story of our lives. That is what makes it original. What we put on everything. We ask our guests, give us some words of wisdom. Leave us a little something of you. And we're not looking for share. There's value in that too. And somehow I know you will be able to speak upon it. So what would your final words be to everyone who's wanting to make their vision possible?
I would say operate from a place of love. Operate from a place of truth. Remember how important it is for us to support each other as we move forward. The world is a complicated place, and it's rather than us be dystopian and dysfunctional and angry and all that kind of stuff, how about we hook up with each other and say, hey, we can agree to disagree, but your humanity is important to me and mine is important to yours, and let's move this ball forward. That's what I think.
That's beautiful, Herb.
Yeah. Shit, I felt pressured. Shit.
This has been one of the easiest hour and whatever it is minutes that we've spent because
What a ball.
we have reconnected with family.
Yeah.
And, so that's my final words are, we talk about being together, and we're always saying, we should get together. Generally, we should get together and we got to hook it up and chat about it and chop it up, and we never do it.
Yeah.
We never do it. We just talk about it. We don't be about it.
Yep.
So I suggest that in this next week, find somebody, find one person that you haven't talked to in a long time that you love, family member, acquaintance, ex-employee, employer, workmate, whatever, colleague, team member, whatever. Somebody you just haven't seen in a long time.
Yeah.
That you just love. And reconnect with them and see where that takes you, because this has been a really nice night for me. And usually I'm a chatterbox when it comes to these evenings, but I like listening to Herb and hearing, because he and I have not seen each other in literally years.
Years.
Haven't sat down to talk like this in decades.
Yeah, absolutely.
So to just be able to hear him, hear his journey, and hear what he's all about, it did me a world of good. And so it's not just about what you say and how you're expressing yourself. It's how others express themselves around you, what you can learn from them and appreciate from them, especially if you haven't seen them for a long time. Because you're going to learn new things about these people that you've known forever, that you may not know necessarily in this present moment. And I guarantee you'll both be thankful that you reached out to say, hey, what's up? How you doing? How's the family? How are you feeling? How are you doing, old friend? And I think you'll come away with a good feeling, the same way I'm feeling it tonight with Herb.
Same here.
Thank you, Herb.
Same here. And let me just say that the invitation to be part of the Morris family, game changer for me, big time. That was a seminal part of my life, and it extended what I thought was possible. Like this is just amazing. Remember, I have Jet magazines with your pictures on it. I just said, fuck that. I'm coming out. I'm getting in the family.
You were a stalker.
It worked.
Pleasant one.
Is it stalking if it works? I don't know.
Hey, however you got to get there.
That's right. Okay, here are my final words.
Okay.
You never know where you're going to go. You never know how relationships are going to shape up. You never know those people who you fall in love with and you fight with and then you break up with. You say, I don't want to be with you anymore.
Yep.
Every relationship teaches you something. Every single relationship. Not one relationship should be something where you throw away and you go, oh, I want to forget that. I'm telling it. And I want to speak to just those where the hearts are hurting. That's the only pain that you feel. I don't want to speak to the others because I don't know about that. But I know that in every relationship I've ever had, I've learned, I've become the woman I am today. I've become a better person I am today. I've learned to believe in me for my relationship with others. I do. I come here by myself through my mama, and I'm going to leave by myself. But I travel through this world with my relationships with my family, my friends who become my family, like with all of you. Don't discard any relationship. I didn't share this week, but I'm going to tell you I had a horrible thing happen at work this week. Whew. I almost quit, but I had faith in myself and my relationships and who I am. And the person who could have cost me my job for something they thought they saw was loving up on me today. And you know what I did? I smiled. Now, does that mean I will trust that person again? No, it's not about that. It's about what do I want? How do I want to move forward? What is the shape of my life? Am I going to let anybody take my goodness away? No, thank you, Mr. Mrs. No, no, no. That's what I don't want from you. I want you to know that you are the prize. You are the gift. And there are others who come with you to help you create that. And you are a part of their goodness as well. So y'all have a good week. And know that we love you. Thank you.
Manifest. We will be in touch. Love,
That's
love,
right.
love,
Yeah.
love.
Love you guys. Have a beautiful week. Universe willing, we will see you next time.
We sure will. And night, Philly. I love you guys.
Good night, all.